Welcome to the Get Trauma Informed podcast, dedicated to unraveling the complexities of trauma, its pervasive impact, and the journey towards holistic recovery and realignment. If your radiance has ever felt muted, like I and thousands of others, you're in the right place to reignite your inner light. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Get Trauma Informed podcast. We have an amazing guest for you today. I already feel the wellness coming through the screen. Mike Murphy, how are you today?
Good, Liz. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I am doing well. I'm doing absolutely well. You are in for an amazing treat today. Mr. Murphy here he is a self-made businessman, right? And he's going to tell you a little bit about that. But what I am just absolutely enthralled with is his wellness resort and all of the good work that they're doing there and the work that he's doing in the nonprofit space. So as we kick off, Mike, what does Get Trauma Informed mean to you?
Well, I would like to clarify, because the informed word has me thrown for a loop, though. Get trauma informed. What do you mean by that?
Get trauma informed means to become aware, right?
Okay,
because
perfect.
To become aware.
So I'm going to show you a picture of me. This is 1957. I don't know if you can see it or not.
I can.
But this is a little 6-month-old boy sitting on a couch with a bottle of beer next to him and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And his mother wrote, "Learning young, just like mommy and daddy." So you talked about trauma in the womb. I'm sure I had some trauma in the womb. I know I had a lot of trauma as a young kid. And that really shaped me because I didn't know how to deal with it. I was a super sensitive kid growing up in an alcoholic home, oldest of 5. So at 14 years old, I just didn't come home from school one day. And I became a habitual runaway, juvenile delinquent, created a real mess of my life, and then had a baby at 23, and then abandoned the mother and the baby when the baby was just 2 months old because I was a runaway. And if I didn't like something, I ran away. And typically my parents would take me back. This particular woman didn't take me back, but by the grace of God, I ended up in a 12-step program the next day. And I found a little bit of hope for me, right? But I still couldn't stay off drugs or alcohol. And then someone in Alcoholics Anonymous said, "Hey, I've never met anybody as messed up as you, but I might know somebody that can help you." And he introduced me to a man who taught me the law of attraction in the way it's never been taught before. And I tell that story in my book, The Creation Frequency, which really goes into all this law of attraction, using the power of your own voice, putting yourself in a self-hypnotic trance, and everybody in the whole world is using the law of attraction. They just don't know it. Once you realize how powerful it is and how you can use it to serve yourself instead of not serve yourself, because the truth of the matter is everything in our physical world starts as a thought and a desire. So back to trauma. You said the most important thing. We got to acknowledge it. We got to admit that it's there. And so many people are running around just trauma-based. They're in fight or flight 24/7. And it's impossible to not be exposed to trauma in today's world. Turn on the freaking news and watch it for an hour, and you're going to get exposed to trauma, okay? When you see these kids being blown up in Palestine or Ukraine or Russia, wherever the hell it's going on, that's trauma, ladies and gentlemen. But we all have our own personal trauma, and most of it has as children, when we're a sponge and we're just being programmed by what we absorb because we're in theta brainwave state. So we all have to deal with this trauma, but you hit the nail right in the head. We got to shine light on it. We got to look at it. And most of us want to close our eyes, and we got to deal with the shadow. We live in duality. You can't have black without white. You can't have hot without cold. You can't have light without dark. And we are light beings. That's part of the problem. Is we live in duality, right? The other problem is we live in an animal body. We urinate, we fornicate, we defecate, but we're spirit. So right away, there's what is going on here? I have this higher self, this higher mind. I have this soul. I have this consciousness, and then I have to live in this animal body with all these other animals that are half of them are crazy, right? So trauma. Until we free the trauma in our body, we're going to be in this fight or flight, which is going to manifest itself into some sort of health problem. Or we're going to get emotional. We create these walls around our heart because we can't stand the pain in our heart, and we flee to our head. And in the head, we're dead. I call this the insane asylum. So when we can get back into the heart and start to heal it and start to open it and start to live from here, then we can use this supercomputer to get what we really want in life. So I'm all about what you're talking about here.
Oh my goodness, I could listen to you talk for hours and hours and hours. My goodness, you just said every single thing because we get into these conversations with people that are not aware of the trauma. So they want to debate you that the trauma exists. CDC already states that 70 to 80% of us have suffered some form of trauma, right? So that's, I mean, over half of the population. And then the other a percentage, they know somebody that have gone through trauma or they witnessed it themselves. So therefore, it bears the reason everything that you just said was just spot on. My second question to you, how has trauma empowered and inspired you?
Well, having the ability to overcome it and to go through the fire of the trauma and come out the other side whole and healed, that makes you powerful and strong. Now you're a powerful creator that has control over how you respond to things. I might not. You mentioned you were in an automobile accident. Okay, well, those are random accidents that happen. But how did you respond? You could have gotten bitter, or you could have gotten better. In your case, you chose to get better and to create something positive in the world. So that's super important. It's really important because most trauma, people that are affected by trauma, and it's deep in the subconscious, they don't even know it's there. Well, guess what? They become victims. And when you're a victim in life, you don't have any power. You've given your power away. And the truth of the matter is, we're either all victims or none of us are victims. And the truth of the matter is, we're all powerful creators, and we all came here to create something. But society or the powers that be or whatever's going on in this world, right, wants to divide and conquer us, make us all victims. And here's what I really see as the big problem for people that don't shine light on their trauma. They keep telling the damn story over and over and over and over again. And it gets etched in their neural pathways in their brain. It gets into every cell of their body. And now it's just the same old story of trauma being embedded into their life. And poor is me, and I'm a victim. And they don't really live the life that they came here to live. And they die with their music still in them.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. Can you talk a little bit about the services that you offer at your wellness retreat?
Yeah. So we started Mountains of Hope, but so I had this nonprofit in Oakland, California, and I would provide financial grants to women below the poverty line, mostly African American in Oakland. I also did it in Southern California, mostly Hispanic. And they didn't have money to begin with. So I would give them financial grants, 1,000 a month for 5 months. The theory being that they would go through treatment and they would come out the other side. Well, the problem is most of them got sicker and sicker and died. So I saw that there was a flaw in the healthcare system, especially when it came to breast cancer, which took my wife at the age of 38 after 9 years of fooling with it. So I wanted to create this healing place in Colombia here. So imagine this: we're 7,000 feet in the Andes Mountains near the equator. So every day the weather's perfect. It's 55 to 75 degrees every day. We have 20 acres of the most beautiful nature God ever made, and an energetic vortex. It's palpable. You can feel it. And on top of that, now on this farm, we have a medical center where we do hyperbaric chamber, IVs, colonics. We do a lot of testing. We do brain mapping. We do live blood cell analysis. We do epigenetic testing, heavy metal testing. So that's the medical aspect of it. Then we have this fantastic gymnasium. We have all this biohacking stuff. We have red light therapy. We have pulse electromagnetic frequency pads where it's like grounding to Mother Earth. We have these things called biochargers. They're like 15,000 electromagnetic machines, like a Rife machine, and you can program them for different ailments to help, because we're electrical beings, we're magnetic beings. So we use this electromagnetism to heal. So we have all of that that biohacking stuff. We have what my favorite thing to do, we imported a sauna from Finland. It holds about 8 people. It gets to about 200 degrees. It's infrared. So the infrared heats us from the inside out. And then at the very end, we pour water on the rocks, volcano rocks, which heats us from the outside in. We spend 15 minutes in there, and then we go jump in a 45-degree cold plunge for 5 minutes. And I do this 3 times in a row. And it's probably the most healing thing I've ever done. You just feel life flowing through your veins. You're so invigorated. And so we really encourage people to get a lot of sunlight, walk around with as little clothes as possible, barefoot, ground to Mother Earth. Then we'd have ceremonies. We have indigenous ceremonies that have been around centuries, anything from plant medicine to cacao ceremony to we have a sweat lodge on property. So we'll put 20 people in the womb of Mother Earth, like a sweat lodge. We'll bring in the shaman. We'll do chanting. We'll do prayers. We'll do singing. So we do all that kind of stuff. So we really try to create everything. But the other thing that we really try to do, and we grow 50 different fruits and vegetables there in pure soil with no chemicals. We have no chemicals on the whole property, from your shampoo to your soap. Everything is chemical free. Our food is outstanding. But really the biggest thing that we really try to do is get people to move out of their head and back into their heart and start opening and healing that beautiful heart. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that happens here at Mountains of Hope.
Oh my goodness. You just took me there. I mean, you absolutely took me there. Absolutely, absolutely. Oh my goodness. That is absolutely incredible. It encompasses everything. We talk about all of the different types of ways to harness our energy. Here we're using the patches, the energy patches, right? Just
Yeah.
everything that we can do to bring all of what you've manifested. We do those things in small quantities. That is absolutely incredible. What would you say to someone that was facing trauma?
Well, do something about it. If you're aware of it and you're facing trauma, like I just flew from, and it happened in Michigan, but it happened to do with this woman who gave her baby up for adoption, and then the baby was killed by the adoptive parents, right? So this young girl was facing trauma, and she tried to run away from it, and she ended up getting killed. So if you're in a dangerous situation and you're facing trauma, get on the phone, get help, call the authorities, call an 800 number, find something like that. If you just sense that you have trauma, you're not comfortable in your skin, you're uneasy, and you're not sure why, and so many people today are anxious. So many people are taking the antidepressant meds and anxiety meds, and I really believe, and you mentioned this earlier in the womb. I believe so many people are coming out of the womb today full of trauma because there's so much stress. And when we're in this trauma and the nervous system is in fight or flight, we're never at ease. We're always anxious, right? And so really, there's a million things to do, but you have to realize that you're going through it. And then one of the biggest things that we can do is learn to meditate, and I happen to be a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza, his workshops, his guided meditations, but any type of meditation will work. What we need to do is turn this off for a little while, move into the body, get quiet, get comfortable. And one thing I teach people is to ask for help. And I do this by journaling. In my journaling, I start every morning with gratitude. So I just get up, I put the date, the time, where I am, and I say, okay, thank you for this. Thank you for my wife. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my health. Thank you for my business. Thank you for my kids. Thank you for my whatever. I get in a state of gratitude where I can really feel it. I can see those people. I can see these love things. I can see this beautiful business that I have, and I feel immense gratitude for it. But then here's, I think, the magic power. I ask for wisdom. I call God Heavenly Father. And I just say, Heavenly Father, please give me wisdom on what to do in this situation at work, what to do with this child, what can I do for this grandchild, What can I do for this financial issue? And I'll ask for wisdom. And I do this every day, right? And so over years, I can go back through these journals and I can see 80% of the time, things just take care of themselves. And then 20% of the time, the answer comes. And it's sometimes an answer I didn't even appear. But because I'm asking from help from the creator of all, then we get answers. There's help. There's guides right here. This is called The Field of Infinite Possibilities by Joe Dispenza. Nikola Tesla called it plasma. The Bible calls it ether. Chinese call it chi. The Indians call it prana. But right here, there's guides. There's help. There's saints. There's your loved ones. There's people that have passed over. There's help in the world, and we're so alone. Everybody is fighting loneliness and despair. And then they go on here and they scroll for 10 minutes and they feel worse. Everybody's got a wonderful life online. And so just get help. If whatever it is, get help and read books. I have an eighth grade education. What made me successful when I finally woke up and I'd had enough pain and suffering and enough of being sick and tired, I started reading books. The answers are here. King Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. Everything is right here, but we got to ask for it. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive. So it's here, but we got to ask for help. And if that's too mystical to read a book or do this, pick up a phone, call someone. There's plenty of organizations that will help you.
Absolutely. Wow, absolutely. Wow, goodness, I'm telling you, I'm never at a loss for words. But I tell you, today you've given me goosebumps, and I am just sitting here in awe because you are actually your prayers answered. Because we have bits and pieces of what you've said, but you just wrapped it all up in a nice bow and said, "Here it is." I knew that a space like this existed. How would people get in contact with you, and how does the resort work?
Yeah, let me explain that. But before I go further, let me just say one thing. My life's not perfect either. Okay. There's a book that I read a long time ago when I was in my 20s called The Road Less Traveled. It's by M. Scott Peck. And the opening line is life is difficult. So I know a lot of things. The older I get, the more I think I know, the less I really know, right? Because everything is changing at rapid speed. But life is difficult. So I don't want people that are sitting there suffering or going through trauma or doing this, saying, oh, this guy's got it all together. No, my life is just as difficult as anybody else's. I've just found ways to respond, to keep going and to keep building in spite of the difficult things that show up in life. So I want people to understand that life is hard for all of us. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay. It's supposed to be hard and difficult because that's how we learn and that's how we grow and that's how we stretch. To get a hold of me, my real passion is mountainsofhope.com. That's where our wellness resort is. It's very inexpensive. We have a nightly rate of $299 a night plus food and wellness, or we have a weekly rate of $29.95, which includes a bunch of medicine, wellness, stuff like that. But most of our plans are custom plans. Like we have a gentleman that's been here like 2 months right now dealing with cancer, a blood cancer. We have a lady that's been here maybe 6 to 8 weeks dealing with some personal stuff that she wanted to overcome. We just had a guy leave who had a problem with cocaine and Xanax. Left the first week was pure hell. The last 2 weeks were pure love, and he left a completely different person. So most of our plans, we have stem cells, which are good for anti-aging. They're good for a blown shoulder or knee or an ankle. So most of our plans are custom-made plans based on does someone want to lose weight? Are they dealing with type 2 diabetes? Is there a cancer involved? Is there anxiety, depression, addiction? So most of that. So if you go to mountainsofhope.com and you can book a consult with one of our doctors, and it's a free consultation that you can have with one of our doctors, and they'll identify what's going on with you after you tell us, and then we'll decide whether we're a good fit, whether we can help you or not. We don't want people here that we're not going to be able to help. So we're only looking for people that are where our strengths are, where we know that we're effective of helping people. And if nothing else, okay, we will love people to health. Our staff, we have probably 20 people on staff, just the most amazing, beautiful, loving, kind people. There's something special about South America and this country, and they just have beautiful hearts. And so that's one thing. Everybody that visits us always comments on our staff and how loving and kind they are.
My goodness. Wow. That's absolutely incredible. I mean, you've put me in a state of relaxation that I didn't come to this conversation with, and that's another amazing thing about energy and about peace and everything. That's why we talk about removing toxic people, places, and things out of your space so that you can come into a space of healing and a space of recovery. So this is absolutely incredible. Is there anything that you would like to leave our audience with today?
The biggest thing is you're not a victim, and you're a powerful creator, and you might need to. Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of my favorite teachers, and he says if you want to change your personal reality, you need to change your personality. And what is your personality? It's what you think, act, and do, right? So if you want to change something, if you're not happy, you need to change. Okay. So you start with changing something small that you can manage, and every day you build on that. But everybody can live a better life. And I encourage you to check out my book, The Creation Frequency, or you can go to creationfrequency.com. Almost everything is free there. We have an app, and really understand how the universe works. A thought is a seed, and I plant this thought into the field of infinite possibilities. And my heart is the magnet. So the more love and gratitude, compassion, joy, the benefit for the world that I can put into this intention, the more powerful or easier it is to draw it back with my heart. So when we understand that everything in the universe works like this, if we want a watermelon, we go out in the garden, we plant a seed, and then a few weeks later, we get a watermelon. If we want an oak tree, we plant an acorn. Now that takes longer. So the bigger the intention, the bigger the goal. We might have to wait a little bit longer, but we all have this power. But we got to get crystal clear of what it is we want. Then we got to feel it as if it already exists. And once we can do that, then you just watch who shows up in your life. Watch what book shows up, what funding shows up. Everything will work together, but you got to get out of the way. And you got to really change your belief systems and incorporate if your life is not hitting on all 8 cylinders. If you're hitting on all 8 cylinders, God bless you. But if you're not, and you want to get well, and you want to get past this trauma, and you want to become the best version of yourself, you're going to have to get off the couch, put down the beer, and go out and do something.
Yes, yes, sir. And you have been actually a manifestation of my prayers as an ideal, amazing guest to be on our show and now a friend to the show. So I so appreciate everything that you brought with you today. And I look forward to further connecting with you. And I will definitely invite you back. So
Well, you're a beautiful, loving woman. So it's been a pleasure to spend this time with you today.
well, thank you all. Thank you for being here and thank you all for listening. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now. It's time to buckle up. No more suffering in silence. Our Power Pack journey to recovery and realignment starts now. Remember, you were collateral damage on someone else's warpath. Trauma is not your fault. Recovery, however, is your responsibility. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast.